and Vibhuti Jhaji. Let's go straight into the topic: Hinduism versus Hindutva, which is the flavor of the day. And before that, I request you to please subscribe the channel. And also, you can always support us and follow us by going into the description. Namaste to all viewers, and namaste Vibhuti and Ajay. How are you all doing?
Say, pleasure to be in a great company.
Let's start with this Hinduism versus Hindutva. I know, Vibhuti, you battled it quite strongly, and you assembled a lot of firepower to battle this dismantling global Hindutva thing that was put by the Rajas. And now we have the local Hindutva. But of course, because the coincidence is a bit too uncanny, I think it is that same game that the old Indologists used to play in the 19th century that is being played all over again. And I saw Chiri Sharma making some tweets, very interesting tweets about the United States getting interested in balkanization of India by fostering what is called subnational groupings and subnational diplomacy. And what's your take?
My take is very simple. In the 19th century, you talked about that. And the saying goes that if you are not careful, history repeats itself. And to that end, I believe that we have to be more careful that history does not repeat itself. And we have the pleasure of having Dr. Ajay here. He knows the history very well of Kashmir Pandit Singh Kashmir. Sharda Peeth with it is gone. It's no longer existing, or is existing only remnants. Why we need to take this seriously is because the enemies within. They want to conflate and conflate the issue. And the issue here is very simple. Create a bogus narrative and defeat the main. And what I suspect here is what is happening is by clearly demarcating the Hindutva and Hinduism debate and dialogue, they want to isolate the one segment, then attack the other. It is coming. It is Hindus are the major threat to all the religious monopolies. And as you know, I always call them the organized religion. So look at this man, Sanjay, this guy, my brother Sanjay, who talks about it, and this guy, Shashi Tharoor. These people have always been at the forefront of abolishing Hindus. They have been at the forefront. Congress party is hardly a Hindu party. They only take advantage of the Hindus. They have always taken advantage of the Hindus because we do not come up with a united front. So let's not take Rahul Gandhi in a simple manner. That guy is not popular. To me, he is either 786 or 666. Pure incarnation of that. He's a pure incarnation of that. And let's not get befooled by his buffoonery. Because look at the way his tutor is Shashi Tharoor, who's busy taking pictures with all the beauty queens around the world. And he has he takes pride in putting it up in social media. So that the man's thing is like perverted, intellectually perverted. I put him in that category. Because in his YouTube things that we have seen, what does he say? He says Hindutva is like English football, hooliganism. How perverted is that thinking? Hindu is not going around barking and shouting and creating riots. It's meant to protect. It's the nicest picture of Hindutva versus Hinduism was shown by a painter in a picture in which he showed that Ram and Lakshmanji are fighting the demons who are trying to disrupt the yajna of the gurus. So there is a practice and there is a precept. That's the definition that you have to arise to protect and defend yourself. That's Swami Vivekananda's call, arise, awaken and assert. What is wrong in that assertion? That is, every religion does it. Other people kill. Now here is a very interesting one. He says, Shashi Tharoor says, religion is all about spirituality. And I'm wondering,
What about Christianity, Islam?
Exactly. That's what I said. I'm taking the pleasure of using American slang. What a perfect bullshit example. Right? This is the point which we have to contest. And if we do not arise and contest, then if ISIS, Boko Haram, and these entities are representing Islam, but Islam is a religion of peace, give me a break.
Because I think the House has already passed the Islamophobia bill.
Yes, it did. It did happen. A lot of people it gone exactly on party lines. The Democrats have voted for it. Republicans opposed it. The point is there is a 7-vote majority. This still to go to Senate. Then it has to go to the president. And there is a gap. Now the next session will happen in Senate somewhere. And that's why we have to kind of get up and go. We can't let it go. I have already very vociferously talked about all the Indians that, come on, are we protected under this bill or are we going to be attacked under this bill? Think about it. When 70-80% of you vote for Democrat, did anyone ask The relevance of the bill, why did we ask that protection of all minorities everywhere? Every country of the world, every minority is to be protected. And there is an interesting play on the phobia word. The fear is genuine. It's not a
Exactly.
fear imagined. If you say, we have global examples of, you say anything about Islam and there is riot all over the world. Look, go figure. And this is where I am a little disturbed about the fact that what is it that in democracies we bend backwards? Europeans, Indians, we both bend backwards to accommodate a fate that is out to cut our throat. What kind of response is that? And that's where we have to begin to be aware of that. And Shashi Tharoor plays his football. He plays the cheap football. He called Hindutva English football of veganism. And I say he plays cheap football of committed fouls. It's time to give him a red card and eject from the game. That's what is important for us to remember, is that, it's everything is political ideology. If Islam is not political ideology, what is it then? It's not a religious theology that we have to condone. And every element of his, which he talks about, the evil of Hindutva, each one of them are false. This is the important part that we have to contest. We are doing it to Jaipur Dialogue, and it's absolutely a great pleasure to do that, because we need a platform, organized platform, and we need, when the saying goes, if the barbarian is at the gate out to cut your throat, that's not time to be hospitable. It's time to fight back, and we have to fight back. There is no other choice in this.
Quite right. And I think I will read out from the very good comparison table that our friend Shashi Tharoor made when he brought out that book. It was called "Why I Am a Hindu." Well, of course, the news that he is a Hindu. Uh, at that time, you know what he said? That Hindu is not equal to Hindutva. Then he said the opposite of Hinduism is not Islam, it is not Christianity, it is not socialism, it is Hindutva. So my question to Dr. Ajay Chrungoo is that you have a very deep study of comparative religions. So what would you say to that?
See, the type of debate which has been started first in the West, and now this thing is taking some shape in India also. It is one positive message for us, because the totalitarian political systems and cultures which had enslaved us and unleashed destructive process on us for a long, long time, they devised the intellectual process uh, by trying to tell us that we do not have identity, we do not have common anchor. There is nothing like a nationality which we represent. So, more or less, the thrust was that we are a geographical expression, nothing more than that. And this was relentlessly being pursued for a period of time. The positive thing about this new attack is that they perhaps realized that attack has failed. They have not been able to expunge out the continuity of historical consciousness and civilization from the minds of Hindus, from the culture of Hindus, from the social behavior of Hindus. And they perhaps are realizing that process, in fact, is becoming a self-defeating process. In fact, the type of setbacks the left movement has had in India during the last 4 decades clearly demonstrate. There are many people who say that if left would not have opposed the continuity of Indian civilization, bunked it, and tried to destroy it, perhaps certain aspects of its economic perspective might have been accepted by the people of India. So this is a new beginning which perhaps is being made. It is not very recent, but we can say in last 5 to 7 years, 10 years, are seeing that this is taking a shape. They are trying to tell us that there is something wonderfully beautiful about us. There is something wonderfully good about us. And by taking a course of Hindutva, we're basically shunning that. We're basically leaving that. And please don't do that. You will be losing, or will be abandoning the most cherished heritage of yours and most cherished heritage of the humanity. That's the line they take. But once we go to that, how that line is self-contradictory, I would like to suggest this debate about Hinduism and Hindutva. If you go to any dictionary of English, if you just print the word ism on Google itself, you will find all connotations negative. There's no connotation which is positive. So, the attempt to project Hinduism as a very progressive, forward-looking, inclusive lexicon, and presenting Hindutva as something derogatory akin to some sort of totalitarian concept is in itself the very beginning feeling. It is flapping in the very beginning, and it is a self-defeating exercise. See, for example, about the isms, they say that a distinctive practice, system, or philosophy, a political ideology, a dogma. What they want Hindutva to be described as is basically What an ism is. Name of an action or its result like baptism. Name of a state of quality like barbarism. Forming nouns denoting a system, principle, or ideological moment like barbarism. Forming nouns denoting a system or ideological moment, Anglicanism. Forming nouns denoting a basis for prejudice or discrimination, racism. Forming nouns denoting a pathological condition, alcoholism. So what I'm trying to say is that fundamentally at the very, very basis of it, the foundation of it, the whole concept, the whole relationship is wrong. Now you take the other side, you take Hindutva. In Sanskrit, what means essence? There is a debate in India that where from this term Hindu emerged. Some say it was given to us by the foreigners, Iranians, but that's being seriously now contested. It's not being accepted. That's absolutely wrong thing. In fact, some time back, and I want to acknowledge in this discussion, Dr. Hitesh Oda, in his name, and the excerpts of the search on the term Hindu were circulated, and they're wonderful. And he traces the Puranic roots of the term Hindu. He talks about Vishnu Puran. He talks about Padma Puran. He talks about Ved Nadi, in which Hindustan and Hindu term has been used. And he tries to say that it's a misnomer to think that all dialects of Persia as becomes H. He says that all dialects doesn't happen. He said it did not have any Greek origin. Then he raises a question. He says that there is a Sanskrit term for Shiva, Hinduka. And Hindu is an upbranch of it. And so what I'm trying to say is that now even if we take that it is a word, it is if we take that it is something which others generated us with, because we were living around Sindhu, and this was a land between the Sindhu River and the Sindhu Ocean, and the people who live between these, there are the Hindus. Even if we take that definition, which now be seriously contested, and the Puranic roots of the term Hindu is being now brought to the fore by people who are doing research on it. Even if we take it, then even then, Hindutva means essence of Hindus. Now what Shashi Tharoor does is, he's trying to take out the best of the process, the best of civilization of Hinduism, of Hindus, and present it as a part of an inclusive tradition which Hindus should not abandon. And then, without trying to quote how, Hindutva is a negation of all these things. As though at the table which you circulated, say for example, union of cultures and traditions with diverse roots. It's a civilization process, a religious process which is no founder, thousands of years old, has many central acts. It is the union of many ways of life, inclusive, embraces multiple social systems of thought within its umbrella. Now, how the term Hindutva negates it? He is not able to explain it. Now, what is happening here, and in the opening remark, I will tell that when the Holocaust studies started, the people who intensely felt the tragedy which had happened in Europe, the Holocaust of the Jews itself, the beautiful introductory which Elie Wiesel has written to his monumental small work, we got a Nobel Prize, The Night, in which he says that in the concentration camps, the meaning of the words get displaced. So normally, in a normal village, in a normal say mohalla, when the smoke comes out of the chimney of the house, it means that they're cooking something. It means everything is normal. It means that the life live a healthy life. But in concentration camps, when the smoke from the chimney will come out, it means something else. It means destruction. Now this Hinduism, Hindutva, is basically an attempt to displace the meaning. It's basically create. In fact, it has been a totalitarian ploy always, which all will basically sit in very beautiful and very, very intense lines. They want to squeeze me out and fill me by themselves. Totalitarian process, he tried to explain that it's a process of squeezing out what is best in you and ultimately filling you with something which makes you ultimately a total slave, which ultimately makes you submit ultimately. Now, what Shashi Tharoor is basically doing, it's not a democratic process in which he is indulging it. It's not an inclusive process in which he is indulging it. It's not something creative he is creating. What he is doing is he's trying to squeeze out the best, appropriate it, and then try to put those things which ultimately he is presenting, that thought process, that culture, that political moment which he is presenting, the worst of it he is trying to impute on the Hindus. So actually it is a self-defeating process because it will not tie the cord. It will not create the impact which it creates impact. One thing is there, why do we do it now? I told you the first thing that the one process is already failed. Trying to tell us that we do not have identity, trying to tell us that we don't have a continuity, trying to tell us that nothing which joins us. Once that process failed. Now they are trying to test that we, by trying to at least think politically, we are trying to abandon what is best in us. So that is the positive dimension. That the moment of this whole what you call the Hindu survival is now take a shape in the positive direction, and the adversary is for the first time feeling the punch of it. They're understanding it. See, what is happening in America, they think that the same type of processes of isolation and the process of ostracization can be unleashed on the state of India or the nation of India. No, it's not possible. They are trying the old trick, but the old trick has already failed. So what I am, with regard to Shashi Tharoor, I want to just quote, there's an India Today conclave, and in that conclave, he said, the Hinduism is a very large, vastly encompassing religion that has tremendous amount of choice of freedom. Now, what is this vastly encompassing? Does vastly encompassing means encompassing fascism, religious fascism? Does vastly encompassing means ultimately embracing totalitarianism? What does this mean? The choice of freedom, the tremendous amount of choice of freedom. What does it mean? Embracing unfreedom? And can there be any freedom which impinges upon freedom? Can there be any equality which impinges upon equality? This is jargon they are trying to create. They are trying to tell there is something best in you. You have to preserve it. And you have to preserve it because ultimately you have to preserve our system. So they are trying to tell us that there is a rationale still for enslavement. And that rationale should be psychologically fulfilling for you. It's not going to work, Sanjay. It's defeating right at the beginning.
It's
It's
not
already getting defeated. It's an expression of defeat rather than expression, intellectual expression of assertion.
Yes, I come to Vibhuti, a very, very interesting thought by Dr. Chrungoo, and especially what he said at the end, this is an expression of defeat. I agree with him because it becomes an expression of defeat when you put your, what is called the sense of the philosophy on which you want to counter the reigning political power in the hand of a stand-up comedian. And it was still, I should say, it was quite respectable in the hands of people like Shashi Tharoor or even somebody like Salman Khurshid. At least they were able to articulate something, even though uh, you could counter it very easy. But then at least they did sound uh, intelligent and also intelligible. And when you put this whole thing in the hand of a stand-up comedian, what do you get?
You get comedy. Thank you. I'm glad we were able to laugh about it. But on a very interesting, serious note, and Ajay ji said very philosophically, intellectually, he summarized the whole thing very well by saying also that right now it may not work, and because they are afraid, they're fearful of rising Hinduism. And I'm saying this, that technology and science is our biggest ally. Today, all three of us, sitting in three different destinations, are able to communicate. This is our biggest strength at this point in time. I would also urge all Hindus watching this, don't get carried away by the hangama of it all. Let's recognize one thing. Our decimation is their goal, just as it happened in Kashmir, and we could nothing about it. We have passed the stage of intellectualizing the problem. Now we know what has happened, what they want, and what they want done. They want us destroyed. And that's the effort. Think about it. Like I have asked this question. That while Islam kills people all over the world, it still remains a religion of peace. But we are the biggest threat to the society and communities around the world. Go figure. It is a lie we are not able to contest. And that's what we need to contest very powerfully. Because I think, in my humble opinion, that let us intellectualize towards preparing what Bhagavad Gita always, Krishna Bhagavan says, action kya hai hamara? What next? And that's the important issue for us to determine, that are we going to tolerate this? If we are not going to tolerate this, there is a point in time where we have to become warriors. As simple as that. महाभारत और गीता की कहानी तो वही है. धर्म की रक्षा के लिए हमें उठना पड़ेगा. नहीं तो हम चिल्लाते रहेंगे और कोई हमारी बात सुनेगा नहीं. This is the issue which is very important from my perspective, is that we have done enough of intellectualization. Let's get on to the action front now. Shashi Tharoor is taking advantage. Rahul Gandhi is taking advantage of our acceptance and tolerance. And that's the time when we have to draw Lakshmi Rekha. No more. What authority does Rahul Gandhi have to talk about Hindutva? तो नकली गांधी खुद ही है. असली क्या है उनका? Nothing. Who the hell is he? Just because किसी ने उसको चलते हुए देखा मंदिर में, धोती पहन के चला नहीं होता उसे. What is his walking style? He's so uncomfortable doing it. The point which I'm trying, that when we allow entities such as these to speak on us, about us, to us, that's where we miss out the entire game. we must tell them straight away, your points of view are not relevant anymore. Shashi Tharoor has no, I mean, he's a good writer, good orator, good talker, and whatever else. But don't that he doesn't have the authority or the intellectual capacity to comment upon things because he's only fudging the issue. Chrungoo ने बहुत अच्छी तरह बताया. He's pro and con Hindu or Hindu. If you look at everything about Hindutva, is lie, blatant lie. He just drew a parallel against Hinduism. He's saying XYZ, Savarkar and all. Doesn't matter. Savarkarji wrote an article. Who is a Hindu? Why do you say that is the text? To brand it as such is again a false pretense that he indulges in. To talk about the fact that it's a political ideology, then do you accept that Christianity and Islam also is a political ideology? If it is not, then why Hindu is a political ideology? That's the issue that we have to contest with him, because his lies need to be contested and trashed. Very simple. It's enough of the time that we have been giving him the benefit of doubt just because he speaks well and he can make a good argument. I applaud him for his command of English language and his charm and his gruff voice in which he emerges in a manner that he's intellectual. Be that as it may, I'm not denying that. But what I'm saying is that I don't need to accept or agree with him. And when he talks about religion, these religions are not spirituality, he's completely lying there. I mean, what more evidence we want to trash him and ask him that question? Whatever it is. But I have the opinion now that its time has come for us. We succeeded in dismantling Hindutva conference here. But the enemy is not saying idle. We have to be ready for everything else. The enemy has been plotting and playing the game for a very long time. We are only
If I may interrupt,
please.
There is a parallel subtext going on right now.
Mhm.
The nominated ambassador to India, the US ambassador to India, Garcetti, has been going gaga about how he is going to bolster all kind of human rights groups and will look at discrimination and things of that kind. So I think somebody remarked in Twitter, in a tweet, that now all the people can get their toolkits directly from the US embassy in India. and at the same time, you get this kind of narrative. So you can see that link up. Already, the West is led by the US,
Right.
what I should say, the peat vendor. They're already planting this. Now they're getting direct support from the US administration.
No, it is very important, Sanjay. You brought in a very interesting subject matter of LA mayor getting the top-notch diplomatic assignment of being put as India's ambassador to India. And there is definite consternation among certain groups of Indians here, is that you have trivialized the office and relationship with India. That request is being submitted.
Serve them right. The vote Democrats also.
Yeah, so you have taken a small-time mayor, and I'm saying with due respect, you are a Los Angeles mayor, you're a petty politician, and you have no experience of being a diplomat. India accord highest importance to America, and they send the best diplomats here. When you talk about India being a great relationship and a great business opportunity, you are sending a rabid liberal who is already vested with preconceived notions. He is not a diplomat, he's a politician. He should have been sent to a smaller country for an internship before he sent to India. This is Biden administration is belittling India relationship by sending a person like Garcetti.
About Biden administration, why do you say that they're belittling India? They belittle their own office by electing Kamala Harris.
That's right. I mean, I'm not saying that about that. He got elected. She's also elected. So what can you say about that? All kinds of people get elected. So I'm not impressed by that part. Nomination is different. But nominating Garcetti as the ambassador to India is not the most appropriate selection of candidate because he's already biased. He has no experience of managing global relationships. He's just receiving minor tips and techniques of what to do. And he will be guided by certain interests that he will have limited mandate. And this is also important because Pakistan is sending a rabid anti-India hate guy as the US ambassador to the United States. You can see the gameplay that anti-India forces are indulging in. That's what I'm talking about. That maybe India must reject the appointment of Mr. Garcetti. The government of India should do that. He doesn't fit the stature. Yes, his credentials should be said no. He's not worthy of it. He's not worthy of being in Kanakapuri, Delhi. Likewise, the United States must reject the candidature of the Pakistani guy who's come here. You see the gameplay. I'm saying that we will have to take the conversation beyond.
Come on, they cannot even reject Elan Umar. I just think they reject the Pakistani ambassador.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. That's what I'm trying to say to you, that we have to act on these matters. Ilhan Omar let me say this to you. Ilhan Omar is not a light to Congress lady. She's winning from a very protected territory. Only certain groups of people can fight the election there. She's very carefully nurtured in that area. If she goes anywhere else, she'll lose big time. And that's the important part. That's the important part for us to bear in mind. We have to get seriously politically active. Have a political agenda. ये हमें करना है. That's what is important to do.
Okay, I come back to Dr. Chrungoo. I have this for your consideration because ultimately, when they talk about Hinduism being the soft version of what they call Hindutva, and which they banned as militant and intolerant, of course, I'm all in favor of intolerance, by the way, because I subscribe to Karl Popper's what is called the paradox of tolerance, and which says that unlimited tolerance will ultimately result in the end of tolerance. So I'm all for intolerance, be that as it may. But this whole thing, this distortion, was actually started by Gandhi with the promotion or propagation of that silly book of that is called in the Swatch. I don't know whether you read it. If you've read it, then it's no less a comedy than what Rahul Gandhi espoused these days. And that is somehow been exalted to a status as if it is the Bible of New India. And Shashi Tharoor again has gone to the extent of defining nationalism as not the Rashtriyata as we understand it, but he defines it as civic nationalism born out of the constitution. So actually, he reduces India to just a post 1947 entity. So when you look at all these utterances also coming from the West, because they also seem to embrace this kind of interpretation. And when you see our stand-up comedians saying all this, actually it is a quintessence of all that.
See, when the decolonization process ultimately started making headway, the colonizers, the colonizing enterprise, they devised their own strategies. And in the countries which became free, they used two instrumentalities primarily to subvert their freedom. One was trying to embrace national cleavages, and other thing was trying to use the human rights. Because on the issue of human rights, since the intellectual discourse in the countries who had not free, had not evolved, they're not as yet intellectually prepared to really counter the intellectual jargons in the broader, say, framework of human rights. So it created a process of being ultimately very defensive, and it was psychologically debilitating because we were not ready with the formulations, ready with the responses which we had to give. But the situation now it's reached a level where we are equipped. I don't mean to say that we are doing things which are still very, very empty and we are actually defeating the enemy. But one thing is certainly there, that on the other side, this process of unleashing guilt, this is not succeeding. This is failing. Because for a long period of time, it has been an experience, first for the Britishers and then for Congress and the left. They were able to make people to conform to their discourse by unleashing this process, trying to tell us that ultimately there was something wrong with us, trying to create a mindset, trying to ultimately nourish a discourse where the Hindu was always at the receiving end. And so I call it that we're trying to create in this country a majority community which was permanently guilty and minority communities which were permanently victim. And within this framework, they were trying to handle their politics. They might try to do it even now. But we have to realize there are two things which in the very contemporary context, which we have to take note of, and we have to repeatedly say it. While appreciating the good acts of this government, we have to be very, very bold enough to tell them where they are failing. The most important aspect where the government of India is failing is enough narrative. And I can say it, I don't have any hesitation. I think, particularly why I try to have monitored it for the last 3 years, particularly after the removal of utilization of the Article 370, I have seen that Indian narrative, God of India's narrative, internationally has it has been almost paralyzed. Why did it happen? But it is certainly a biggest foreign policy failure for us. After Doha conference, we were literally expunged out of the region. We are now trying to find a foothold whether we'll be able to do it with the type of strategies which are unleashing, hoping that ultimately the West will put the pressures on Pakistan, and ultimately Pakistan will come out. I don't think that is going to really succeed that way. We have to have our own narrative, and in that direction, we have to pressurize government of India. We have to very relentlessly criticize government of India. Even if it means sometimes ridiculing them, we have to be very, very forthright and very clear about it. Because on that front, we are failing. We are outrightly failing. I want to just make a small reference. Shashi Tharoor has been primarily, he acted as almost a catalyst in this debate because he has said certain things recently which maybe had to be rebutted because they were more or less the representative views of many people belonging to his ilk. He said, what is the danger? What danger does Hindutva promote? He said, Hindutva systematizes Hinduism. Now, the word itself, stigmatization is a racial term because he blames Hindutva for creating a racial consciousness. Now, we have to just tell him it's not stigmatizing. Yes, basically he's talking about Abramization. Is he afraid of Abramization of the Hindus? Now, if he is afraid of Abramization of the Hindus, does he want, or his ilk want to protect the Hindu civilization from the dangers of Abramization? What Hindutva consciousness is doing is basically creating a political consciousness, creating a civilization consciousness to protect the Hindu, inclusive Hindu civilization, all encompassing Hindu civilization from the dangers of a very religious totalitarian fascist moment, which is Armization. And a person like Shashi Tharoor have to be told that you belong to that process. You do not belong to the Hindu process. You do not belong to any aspect of the inclusive, what call as Hindu way of life. You are basically acting as slave drivers. See, people, the audience here should know that there have been those galley slaves, and they would ultimately row the boats, and the master would take one slave out of them and tell them to monitor the rowing by these slaves. He would have a whip in his hand, and sometimes he would get a smile from his master, sometimes he would get a pat from his master, and he would do the job. This is a role which Shashi Tharoor is playing. They still want master, and they still want to be slave drivers. They have an addiction of acting as slave drivers. So, having said that, I definitely, what Mr. Vibhuti said, that the dangers are there. There is an all-round convergence of the anti-India forces, internationally also and nationally also, which we have to defeat. And we have to stand up to a defeat. And that danger can be definitely averted, number one, by creating a consciousness, by creating the right kind of discourse, by bringing issues, but ultimately telling the people that we are not on the receiving end, the other side is the receiving end. The biggest opportunity which we have, the Hindus have, it's not world of 1947. Many things have changed. Pakistan is out, still committed enough to unleash destructive process of India, and still abetting destructive processes within India. But the genie of Pakistan is ultimately got unleashed on the international order itself. Taliban is not only a challenge to say Russia. Taliban is not only a challenge to say Iran. Taliban is a challenge to India. It's not a challenge only to India. Taliban has ultimately, after entire international sensitivity, we have the designated terrorists now legitimate leaders. Which country did it? Pakistan did. Pakistan achieved it. Will they leave this process? They will not leave this process. Will United Kingdom remain unaffected by it? No, it will not remain unaffected by it. Will America even will the Democrats remain unaffected by it? No, they will not remain unaffected by it. But what is happening is there is inertia. Our inertia, at least at official level, to tell the world what type of dangers the world India is facing and what type of dangers the entire world is facing, and what is common amongst them. If in this exercise we succeed, we will succeed at multiple levels. I know it in the initial phase when Democrats came to power. I'm talking about last 3 decades. They were at that time more sensitive about a terrorist scourge which Pakistan was unleashing than the Republicans. The things have changed. Maybe have been penetrated enough. Maybe the people who have entered into their power accounts are now creating entirely a different process. But it has an implication for America itself. It is an implication for Europe itself. So the dynamics of Islamic expansion, it is a danger to us. But this dynamic of Islamic expansion is global, and there is an opportunity, there is a possibility. Provided we can utilize it, provided we can really, in the spaces which are, if we can really enter into those spaces. At present, at the official level, I think they are failing. We're failing because we have not kept the narrative as a primary task, and then we are not trying to utilize the spaces which have been created. It's not 1947. Americans would like Pakistan to play the same role which the Britishers wanted Pakistan to play in 1947 and afterwards. That's not going to happen. And those are the spaces which we have to ultimately explore. That is about those spaces we have to be very clear. So, in this debate of Hindutva and Hinduism, I want to tell you that yes, one thing is there that we have to answer very coyly, we have to respond. Wherever we have to respond with ridicule, we should respond with ridicule. Wherever we have to respond purely intellectually, we have to respond purely intellectually. Wherever we have to mock them, we should not hesitate to mock. And that's what we have to do at this time. And I personally feel that there is a process of cohesion which is building up at a very primary intellectual level in India, among the Hindus and globally also. And this cohesion, which is being catalyzed by interactions like what you are, Jaipur Dialogue, is doing, this is going to have a very far-reaching impact, not only on India, but on global discourse. Hindu will be playing a major role ultimately. This totalitarian war has unleashed, this is exploding, and it's not only exploding in the direction of India. India still has, we have all faced the type of violence India has taken. If only a fraction of that gets unleashed on America or Europe, different things will happen. And in case they don't respond, it's going to happen. And over the period of time, gradually that opinion, I think, is emerging. It's a matter of time before the entrenched forces of, say, Islam communities are exposed. And we have to play a critical role in exposing them.
Excellent, excellent. Very beautifully put. Very beautifully put. Before we go to the question and answers, I just would mention that this whole thing that Taru races is on Savarkar's Hindutva, that little booklet. And if that term was coined by certain Chandranath Basu in 1892, so if that basic fact is got wrong, let's go to questions and answers. We got 20 questions coming today our way. And before that, I have a request for all our viewers to please share this video and like it. Also, you please subscribe to us, whoever is watching. And you can also go to the subscription in order to support us and to follow us.
Press the like on YouTube and don't miss another update.
I would also like to inform our viewers that we have our Patreon subscriptions on as well. Okay, so we go to the questions. Hello, desk. What's happening? Abhijit Joshi. Why humanities graduates who had zero knowledge about ancient scientific progress of Sanatana Dharma are lecturing us about scientific temperament? Ajay ji.
It's itself very explicit. They are doing it because they still want to believe that they have the controls. They don't have the controls.
Right. Are you saying something, Vibhuti ji? We can't hear you. You're muted.
That is a classic example of usurpation.
Next. Oneness, Dr. Chrungoo. If Nazi Germany could mend its ways, what will it take for Islamia to mend its ways, especially Islamic collaborators in the form of Gandhis and the Taruts?
Pan-Islamism has to be defeated first militarily, globally. Simultaneously, it has to be met a very political defeat. There is no other way, and it's going to come to that point. We don't have to be defeated about it. People thought that Pan-Islamism would just ultimately destroy India. Communists wanted Pan-Islamism to use Pan-Islamism to destroy India. German Nazis tried to use Pan-Islamism to ultimately harm India. The West tried to use Pan-Islamism to harm India, but we are in different times. Pan-Islamism is eating into them also. We have withstood the pressures of Pan-Islamism far better than they have done. So I see that, yes, Pan-Islamism has to be defeated militarily, it has to be defeated politically and ideologically. And that process is already going, it is already taken off.
If I may add here, one more thing is that military defeat is not going to happen. I'll tell you why. But there will be no Islamic versus non-Islamic war. That is their strategy. I was told this about 20 years ago, that by a very guy, that none of the Islamic countries have the physical ability to fight a non-Islamic country in a conventional war. We are not going to create a condition in which we have to fight a war because we don't have any weaponry of our own. So the question is, we will be running dry in 3 days' time with bullets and guns lying idle. What they are doing is raging exactly what is going on right now. Law warfare, taking advantage of the democratic process, and that's what I was told. We'll take advantage of every single process that exists in democracy, and we'll take advantage of that. We'll fight lone warrior scenario. How many John Does will you send to? How many John Does will you protect with your Marines? We will indulge in each one of the things which is non-traditional. There is a deep thought going, which I heard 20 years ago. I'm not telling you today. And that's where we have to prepare ourselves. How do you feel? It has to be demanding reciprocity from them. That's my favorite word. You have to demand reciprocity. That's simple.
In this war, I never meant conventional war, and you're right. I not disagree with you. I want to tell you that the biggest challenge to the entire, what if we call in the positive sense, the liberal world, is the capacity of Pan-Islamists to use the democratic domains.
Exactly.
They cannot postpone this process now. They cannot postpone this for too long. They might get a few years of it, but ultimately, how freedoms of democratic processes, democratic domains are being used by the Islamists as initiation. This issue has to be addressed. This cannot be left now unattended. And the positive thing is that initially it was only ultimately a challenge to India. We wanted to have a democratic process. They're using our democratic spaces, and the entire world was taking judgment on our democratic behavior to the ultimately benefit of the Islamists. But this, what you surge, this disease has now spread to other democratic domains, and that is the possibility. I don't mean to say that we are yet ready with the intellectual wherewithal and political wherewithal to do it, but 10 years back, 15 years back, the possibility of consensus or even recognizing this issue was very small. Now, the possibility of recognizing this issue is very wide, is bigger. That's why we have to play the role.
Right.
Next question is, Algebra Vibhuti, it is hard to wear Hindu identity in your university. You get called on caste very fast. Easier to say Indian, but Hindu is hard. Your views.
First of all, I appreciate your concern, which is very valid, because my son went through the system here himself. To begin with, be proud of your identity. That's very critical. And diffuse the situation by engaging in dialogue. It's very important that too. Because one thing good in America is that while the campuses may be what they are, the brainwashed liberal agenda, they cannot deny you your position. You have to use their systems just as everybody is using to assert yourself. Talk about it. Don't be apologetic about it. What is truth. That's simple as that. To confront the truth, ask the right questions. And Jabra, if you are in the US, reach out to me. I will tell you some of the things that what can be done about it. In this short Q&A, I can't give you all the weapons. But first of all, be proud of your identity. Your pride holds everything up, and that's important.
Next question. Next, gentlemen, see how the party with difference, Bharatiya Janata Party, abandoned its ideology and its workers in Bengal. Do we see it becoming a Bagola Janata Party views? I think I'll take this question myself. See, you may say it is Bagola Janata Party, but we can call it out and we can put pressure on it and we can see some results. So I think that's the good point about it. I'll recall and recount. Taking back the temple bill in Uttarakhand, things like what is happening in places like Kashi. And today, surprises, even Dr. Mohan Bhagwat went back on his DNA theory and called for corruption. So I was actually flabbergasted. I mean, that takes the wind out of the sails of DNA theory completely. So the good thing about PAP is that you can criticize it without the fear of being killed. Unlike what will happen to you if you were in a team Siraj. So I think it counts your blessings. Next, Atul Sharma, Ajay, how to have Gurukuls to teach kids Hindutva? Ajay?
Expert. They have created somehow, but I do not know how to do it. Sanjay will be able to tell in better way.
I can suggest you, why don't you go and look at what virtual Gurukuls like Agastya Gurukulam are doing. We have hosted them 2-4 times on Jap Dialogues, and to me, it seemed to be a fantastic idea.
I would,
So,
Sanjay and Ajay, I would ask everybody here. I am a product of a Gurukul system. In Dhar mein, Netahar government school hai. It is run on a Gurukul system. I have done everything, all from 6th grade to 12th grade, higher secondary, horizontal. We did everything. Dhadu, pocha, safai, khana, parosna, bartan dhona, pathi maar ke baithna, squatting and sitting and studying. Swadhyay, we used to call it Swadhyay, every day 1 hour. And 50% of the students were poor, Harijan, tribals, and we all played, lived together, did the drama and a community life. See, that particular institution has not caught on in India because we are not good marketers of ourselves. We have a system which is working and a government system which is working. Why not implement it in every other part? Tragedy, Bihar still remains casteist place. But we did. There is a community that is a living example that can work. Lalu Yadav tried to, otherwise the school, he failed.
okay. Next. Rishi, BJG. Islam is for left folk and Hindutva is for heart. Your view on Modi Yogi's Kashi stroke, Bhagwat Shwata stroke today. Kursi, Hindu stroke.
Rishi, your questions always make
All of them seem to master stroke, is it?
So, look, you said it. I don't even have to add anything to that actually. Thank you.
Next. Nikhil Chitre, what is the reason behind the persistence of likes like RG and ST? Rahul Gandhi, Shashi Tharoor. A smarter opposition will adapt for votes to continue the same policy in power. Yeah, that's quite right. They don't have to act like vokes and talk like Rahul Gandhi does to be able to do what they had been doing earlier.
The establishment which sustains them, that establishment is weakening with all years what was told to get from outside. I think we have to get right and act right. We don't have to do commit mistakes. I think in last say 5 years, if this government would not have blundered in certain areas, perhaps we would have seen such forces weakened to the extent you would not even take notice of them. So our area should be primarily focused on that. Yes, Hindus have gradually got hold of the power, political power. We have to consolidate it. We have to raise it to a different level. We have to give it the content which it requires. I think at the level of content, there are many still areas which have to be filled, and we have to play that role. I don't think the other side on the side, they are the game. They still are banking the same old strategies of Hindu fracture and then trying to appeal to the Hindu consciousness that that's not going to work. See, it's just we have been talking recently about many failures of the Modi government, and just one small resolute good step in Kashi, it has created an entirely different impact. So the ground is laid. People are waiting for good things to happen. All of us have to play a role to push those things. I have to just make a suggestion. We can, whenever we get a time, we can really talk out in detail. There is something like shock doctrine. They say that the imperialist powers usually intervene in countries where they want to really intervene, when countries are almost collapsing, or when they collapse. And in that shock, they enter into the system and then take control of it. Now, in a reverse thing, it happens. Presently, the area where they fail, say for example, areas of say handling terrorism, say areas of where they are handling the discourse. So whenever these failures come to the fore, we should be ready for the propositions, because that is the point when the public opinion is most sensitive. You don't need to create a political party at that time to push forward a proposal. You just need to have a really good concrete session to push forward. It will automatically gather the mass and create its own political weight and enter into the system. So people like us, we need to use this shock doctrine more often. That we can do only if we have at least 10, 20 suggestions ready, and the opportunities will come regularly in our way. The moment something happens, we can say this will be done. This was not done, now this should be done. And if we graduate to that level, I think without having in a political parties will be influencing actively the political opinion than anybody else.
Yes, and we have seen that that our the criticism of many of the things has yielded results. So we can actually take credit for that. Next, Sims Yani, push male with Purushottam masculinity is Napusak. Without Hindutva is a zombie. How to make our followers secular Hindus realize? भाई देखिए, लेट पुट इट हिंदी, जब तक राहुल साहब की छाती जो है वो पीठ पर रहेगी तब तक कुछ नहीं होता. So, विजय जी, thank you very much. विजय जी, thank you for your support. अनुभव सुनेजा जी, thank you. SD and Vijay is Modi getting a few Islamic agenda set by MBS like banning Jamaat and Dawah. That's why this all attack on Hindutva. Your view? I mean, that's too much of masterstroke, I would imagine.
But the important part is that you have an ally somewhere. Maybe it's $50 billion invested in Ambani's or whatever. But there is something happening in Saudi Arabia which is not visible to the naked eye. But these steps are powerful steps. The problem lies with us. We don't stand up. I mean, we all know that Friday prayer is a political ideology, political imposition. I mean, what are better place to pray than a mosque or your home, where you can be with your own family? Why on the streets? There is no permission, no desire, nothing to do stop it. So unless we act and stand up to it, things will not happen. He can do it. MBS can do it because that is the kind of society he's part of. The art works, and everybody will obey like slaves there. Those who don't obey, they know where they go. The point is that our system is so marketing, we have become so accepted that our strength has become a weakness, and that's what opposition takes advantage. As the saying goes, the rubber is very elastic, but there's a point for rubber to break too.
Yes.
Oh, well, excess of anything is bad.
Exactly.
Ashwini Kumar Pal, till BJP is in power, I doubt Kashi and Mathura will be back. They are non-Hindutva, image conscious and playing safe. What's your view, sir? Ajay?
See, in fact, in the beginning of this interaction, I was just wondering about this contradiction that Shashi Tharoor was trying to blame BJP and RSS for many things, for which they had not been blamed, because they were he was blaming them for exclusiveness. I think, and they are inclusive more than they should have been, and they have almost erased their boundaries, almost made them vulnerable to be seen just as a mirror image or a carbon copy of Congress. So here, this is a problem. They are trying to blame Modi for many things, which Modi has not done. So it is our criticism. Our criticism for Modi, this government, was that they are seeing the interplay of not genuine secularism and pseudo-secularism. We are seeing the interplay of two pseudo-secularism. This is what we have been constantly saying, not in the same terminology, but in different languages. We've been saying that they are compromising too much. Like, for example, they want a secular certificate from people who have already died them as communal. Having said that, there is one positive dimension of this criticism. This saying is that there is a whole lot of people within the system who understand it, and maybe they play a role also. And we are seeing sometimes positive results happening. And this process has to be kept alive. We have to be relentless in that sense.
Quite right. Next, how can we bring back uniformity in Hindu community which got distorted because of goons like Yukata? Simple. Get the narrative back.
Right.
And the narrative was distorted over a century back. And you get the narrative back. As simple as that. And for details, you'd go back to those episodes that I done on the distortion of the Sikh narrative. Since again, DNA वाली वापसी happened from cut Maharashtra DNA of Moinuddin Bagawat to actual Vishuddha Hindu. Anyway,
Your comment is accepted.
it's accepted as comment. That's all.
Yes.
Rishi, I am. And Dr. Chrungoo ji, please don't get worked out. You are dear to us. Modi needs a donkey raga to kill around 2024. After that, Yogi will complete unfinished task. What is getting worked out there, Rishi? Next. Amrish says that you see a connection in Gawapsi calls and hints of balkanization from incoming US ambassador. What other things can we do to fight subnational elements funded by these stars? Well, the conference in Chitraput was organized much before this Ethiopian ambassador started taking his calls. His addresses have come only today. The conference actually started yesterday. Everybody gathered yesterday. Next. Shweta Swanke, thank you, Ji. One is Sanjay, it's possible for JD to mobilize filing PILs across all states to ban Azan loudspeakers and Friday prayers on the streets. Well, let us first do it where we reside, and then we'll think of scaling up. Next. Sanatani from US. Vibhuti Jai is doing disservice. Instead of obfuscating, please describe the elements of the protected area of the Somali jihadi. Who and what is protecting the hater? Please enlighten us, even if by dog whistling.
Thank you very much for recognizing my disservice. Thank you.
As we mentioned the US, you got satisfied. Are you responding to it, Vibhuti?
We have been doing a lot of exposure on that matter, and we are fighting it a lot, actually. It's not day in, day out, we are asking questions on that. The problem arises, as you saw in the vote that happened, the entire Democratic Party voted for the bill, and the Republican Party did not. It is yet to go to the Senate. So it's a long way process off, but it got passed off in budget bill. It was expected that one of the congressmen who was the leader, Mr. Weeks, had expressed his unhappiness at this bill. But the Democratic Party is very united. They don't break ranks. That's how it has happened. But let me put it this way to you, that in terms of Ilhan Omar, since you made the mention of that name, she's creating an equal opposite reaction in Jewish communities, Jewish people who are supporting Democrats, and Christian community as well. Because they know the game that she's playing. She's trying to establish the worship of Islam in the American society, and that is dangerous. That everybody recognizes that. So there will be reaction to this.
Except the Democrat zombies, you mean?
Yeah. Indians have to act on this as well. Yeah.
SEJ, I'm from Vijaypura, and we run Adi Shankara Shala, starting from 50 children to 2013. We fund for 2,400 students education ashram today from all learners. Great. So who was asking the question about the Gurukul? Here's one.
Right.
Next. Sanatani, again. After Tashkent Russian asset, India and her INC Congress Fuji's let Russian communists edit and craft her history, especially polluting Sanatani Dharma. As the honor bound and Subhash treated INA now Indian military not make Putin accountable. Instead, Modi buys $5 billion S400 by his advertising Kashi. I don't know whether it's a question or it is a commentary or exactly. In any case, I don't understand the question, so I would rather pass it. Namaskar Guruji. I heard that Islamophobia bill is passed in US today by the House only.
Yeah.
It's what its ramification and will impact social media giants too, and expanded their boundary out of US too.
It is intended for that purpose. Is to assert just as the religious freedom index they publish every year. Likewise, they want to stop you and I from asking any question. And it's a very carefully crafted legislation, actually. But there is a particular element to this. Just as China doesn't recognize any human rights bills, they do whatever they have to do. The applicability of this law in the countries that are targeted will not be relevant. India doesn't have any, US law doesn't have any sovereignty over India, and it must reject. In a way,
We reject use CIRF.
right. What I'm saying to you is that this is in a very insidious way. It's also weakening US authority. People don't recognize that. And forcing US to act against those who are supposedly Islamophobic. The question is that people are definitely trying to make an impact. Is that what about protecting minorities in every part of the world? Why only in phobia here? Isn't it true that Muslims kill if you talk about Muhammad? Isn't it true that Muslims indulge in violence as a first resort of any answer to the question? So unless until you set your own house in order, that's not phobia. It's actual fear. And that's what is important for us to educate. A lot of Americans are very gullible. They get taken in, and that's what is being taken advantage of. So it will not. It is intended to be. But they have gained a power, just like in certain acts in India, you get put behind bars to be proven later. So today, what will happen is that anywhere anybody says something, they can easily be charged under this Islamic law. A lot of people who have offices or organizations that are questioning Islam, they will have to prove it is not phobia, but it is genuine. So the onus becomes tougher. The bill is
So
still a lot.
what chance does it have in the Supreme Court of the United States?
I don't think it will pass through the Supreme Court. It will not pass in Supreme Court, this bill. It will be challenged. It's not going to go down. And besides, there will be amendments to this one also, because it will be not about phobia, it will be protection of all minorities in every country of the world, if there has to be one.
Right.
That should be great.
Gaurav Singh Tawar, sir, how can we read the Guru Granth Maharaj success story, ban loudspeaker and ban tablighi, PFI and others? Well, create pressure. That's what he said. I mean, these two are prime examples. There's a Gurugram success as well as the Uttarakhand success. It seems that pressure does work, so you keep creating pressure. And in fact, I and Dr. Chrungoo and some other people actually combined to delay the process of statehood to J&K by creating the right kind of pressure at the right time. Vibhuti, how does you manage to select only almost anti-Hindus of access applicants? Similar story about IP and other institutions too. What do you mean by select only anti-Hindus? A lot of them get house trained later. They are not anti-Hindu to begin with. But then peer pressure, the training and all that, that makes them conform. And conformity is a great virtue in bureaucracy. Well, Mike, thank you, Malik ji. Vibhuti ji, does democracy make people smarter or dumber? Ah,
That's a question that reminds me of the movie Dumb and Dumber.
that reminds me of Rahul Gandhi
Yes, it is intended to
and
make
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
democracy was intended to make you smarter, but there are, I don't know the origin of the phrase "kamu mein bhi gaye hote hain," so there are everywhere you have a situation. Thank you.
Next. Vibhuti, how can Hindus milk and teach the bureaucracy assisted by Abrahamics and comments? No, he teach me and got anything done. So I don't know what is intended by the question. Teasing and milking. Any idea, Ajay?
Already started. The process started. What we are doing, we are teasing, we are telling them, we are criticizing them. It has been happening almost on each episode here. The process is already there. They know that they're under scrutiny.
Right. Next. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this session, a very engaging, fruitful session, I would say. Thank you very much, Vibhuti ji and Dr. Ajay Chrungoo. Wonderful as always. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Jai Hind. Vande Mataram.